यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल जय राधा मदन मोहन राधा मदन मोहन राधे राधे जय राधा गोविंद राधा गोविंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधा गोपीनाथ राधे राधे जय राधा रमण राधा रमण राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर राधे राधे जय राधा वृंदावन चंद्र राधा वृंदावन चंद्र राधे राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम जय वृंदावन धाम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय वृंदावन धाम जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा प्रभुपाद 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 गुरुदेव गुरुदेव आराध्यो भगवान् व्रजेश तनयस् तद्धाम वृन्दावनम् रम्या काचिदुपासना व्रजवधूवर्गेण तया कल्पिता। श्रीमद् भागवत पुराणयमलं प्रेम पुमार्थो महान् श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभोर्मतैदं नायत्रयाग्रह परः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। शृण्वन्ता स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनम् हृदयन्तस्त भद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। नवनीरदनिन्दितकान्तिधरं रससागरनागर भूपवरं शुभवङ्किमचारु शिखण्डशिखिं भज कृष्णनिधिं व्रजराजसुतम्। राधिका सरोदइन्दु निन्दिमुखमण्डली वन्द्ये श्रीपादपद्म वृषभानुनन्दिनी वन्द्ये श्रीपादपद्म वृषभानुनन्दिनी वन्द्ये श्रीपादपद्म वृषभानुनन्दिनी। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं तादद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। श्रीला प्रभुपाद जी की जय। ब्रह्म मध्व गौड़ीय संप्रदाय आचार्य गुरुवर की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। So my humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas. Today we are gathered on February 16, 2022 at the everyday Harinam Chant conference, and also in conjunction with Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad group. We will be discussing Grantraj serving Shrimad Bhagavatam from canto number 5 and chapter number 8. And today's verse is verse number 11. So I will read the verse, and then if you have your Veda base or Shrimad Bhagavatam, you may simultaneously read that verse. Today's verse number 11 doesn't have a purport, so we will continue on to the 12th verse as well. One humble request, devotees, please mute yourself. That way I will be able to concentrate better and serve Shrimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Hari Hari. Iti krutanusanga asana shayanatana Snana Shanadishu Sahamruga Jahuna Snehanubadha Hridaya Asita Iti Krutano Sang Asana Shayanatana Snana Sanad Adishu Sahamruga Jahunu Jahuna Sneha Anubadha Hridaya Asita. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. Iti, thus, Kruta Anusangaha, having developed attachment, asana, sitting, shayana, lying down, atana, walking, snana, bathing, asana adishu, while eating and so on, sahamruga jahuna, with the deer calf, sneha, anubadhu, captivated by affection, rudayaha, his heart, asita, became. Due to attachment for the deer, Maharaj Bharat lay down with it, walked about with it, bathed with it, and even ate with it. The next verse number 12. Kusha kusuma samita palasha phala mulodakani ararshayamano vrukshāla vrukādibhyo bhayam asam samano yada saharina kuna kena vanam samavisati. Kusha, a kind of grass required for ritualistic ceremonies. Kusuma, flowers. Samita, firewood. Palasha, leaves. Phalamula, fruits and roots. Udakani, and water. Aharishyamanaha, desiring to collect. Vrukshala vruka, from wolves and dogs. Adibhya, and other animals such as tigers. Bhayam, fear. Asama, samana, doubting. Yada, when. Saha, with. Harina, kunakena, the deer calf. Vanam, the forest. Samya, Vishati, enters. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. Brahma Mada Gauri Sampradaya Acharya Guruvar ki Jai. When Maharaj Bharat wanted to enter the forest to collect kusha grass, flowers, wood, leaves, fruits, roots, and water, he would fear that dogs, jackals, tigers, and ferocious animals might kill the deer. He would therefore always take the deer with him when entering the forest. Purport by His Divine Grace. How Maharaj Bharat increased his affection for the deer is described herein. Even such an exalted personality as Maharaj Bharat, who had attained loving affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fell down from his position due to his affection for some animal. Consequently, as will be seen, he had to accept the body of a deer in his next life. Since this was the case with Bharat Maharaj, what can we say of those who are not advanced in spiritual life but who become attached to cats and dogs? Due to their affection for their cats and dogs, they have to take the same bodily forms in the next life unless they clearly increase their affection and love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless we increase our faith in the Supreme Lord, we shall be attracted to many other things, and that is the cause of our material bondage. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vancha Kalpatarobhascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I again welcome all the listeners, all the Vaishnavas who are assembled to serve Shrimad Bhagavatam this morning on behalf of Everyday Harinam Chant Conference and Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat Group. Please accept my humble obeisances. Just a quick sound check. If there is devotees on the phone on the Everyday Harinam Conference, can you all hear me loud and clear, please? Somebody can just confirm that. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. And of course, I welcome all the listeners on the Zoom call as well from the Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad group. So this is a wonderful uh, chapter, as a matter of fact, the life of Bharat Maharaj itself. Canto 5 is about the creative impetus. Canto 5 in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, wherein the great devotees of the Lord, their activities have been described. Maharaj Priyavrata, Maharaj Agnidhara, Rishabdev, his appearance, none other than the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, the Shaktavish avatar, Lord Rishabdev. And then the wonderful characteristics of Rishabdev have been described in this canto. And a very important part of this chapter that Srila Prabhupada always described is the teachings of Lord Rishabdev to his sons. And Lord Rishabdev had 100 sons, and one of them was Bharat Maharaj himself. One of the most important teachings that Srila Prabhupada used to quite often speak on this verse, that Lord Rishabdev gave instructions before leaving for the forest, is Nayam Deho Deho Bhajan Nriloke Kastan Kaman Arhate Vitta Bhujam Ye Tapo Divya Putraka Yena Satvam Shuddha Yasmad Brahma Sokyam To Anantam. Meaning, Lord Rishabdev instructed his son, he said, my dear boys, all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one has been awarded this human form of life. And this human form of life is not meant to work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, for material attachment. Such material attachment and sense gratification is available to even animals like dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should not engage, one actually should rather engage in austerity, in tapasya, in penance, tapo divya putraka, to attain the divine position of bhakti, devotional service. And by such activities of bhakti, one's heart is purified. And what is the result? Shuddhayet yasmad brahma sokyam anantam. One attains the position of the eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to all kinds of material happiness. Brahma sokyam, one attains spiritual happiness. And it is anantam. It is perpetual. It will continue forever. So taking these instructions, his son Bharat Maharaj, just to kind of recap, so that in case if some devotees may have missed something, I always like to recap the summary on the subject matter that we are speaking. So Bharat Maharaj took to his the instructions of his father very seriously, and he was a very successful emperor of the world, and he had performed many Vedic yajnas for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And when the time came, he left home and he actually went to Haridwar, and he passed his days in devotional activities, being ordered by his father, Lord Rishabdev. And then Bharat Maharaj also had married Pancha Jani, the daughter of Vishwarupa, and he ruled the whole world peacefully. Formerly, this world, Prabhupada mentions, was known as Ajanabha. But after the reign of Bharat Maharaj, it became Bharatvarsha. And even today, we call India. India is, of course, a name that was given by the British, but it is Bharat. So, how glorious Bharat Maharaj was, that Bharatvarsha, and Bharatvarsha was just not limited to today's geographical boundaries of India. It was the entire world. and all the continents, all the planets. That is why it is called Bharatvarsha. And Bharat Maharaj was executing all the principles of religiosity in the footsteps of his father, Rishabdev. And he was a very successful king, um, performing many yagyas, etc. And he also uh, uh, took to the teachings of Naradji, and he followed in the footsteps of the sages. Shrimad Bhagavatam says that dharmasya tattam nihitam guhyam mahajana jena gatasapanta. Everybody should follow, if one wants pure devotion, everyone should follow in the footsteps of the great devotees who have understood the purports, the confidential purports of religiosity or dharma. Dharmasya tattam nihitam guhyam. So after finishing his kingly duties, he divided the kingdom amongst his 5 sons. Not that he was attached. This is the proper system. That when the time comes in our Varnashram system, from Brahmacharya stage, one enters into Grihastha. And after Grihastha ashram, at about age 50, 55, one enters into Vanaprastha, handing over the affairs of the home and business, everything to the sons. And then one moves on for further spiritual purification and realization into Vanaprastha, and eventually, if possible, sannyas. So he left his home and he went to the place known as Pulaha Ashram. And there he ate, he was very austere. He was subsiding on vegetables and fruits and roots, and worshipped Krishna with everything that he had available. Thus he increases his devotion to Krishna. And he automatically began to realize further his transcendental blissful life. Brahma Sokyam Anantam, just like his father had said, that one would get unlimited bliss if one is committed to austerities for the spiritual realization. And due to his highly advanced spiritual position, there were sometimes visible in his body the Ashtasattvic vikaras, or the transformations, the ecstatic crying, romancha, kampan, ashru, taranga, etc. We find that in the Mangalarti, the qualities of a pure devotee and acharya, that when the acharya or Gurudev is completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, Mahaprabhu Kirtan Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manaso Rasena Romancha Kampan Ashru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guroho Sri Charnaravindam. I offer my obeisances unto all those gurus. Guroho means it's plural. It is not guru. Sometimes we mispronounce when we are singing the Manga Vande Guru Sri Charnar. No, it is Guroho. Vishwanath Chakradipad was a perfect acharya, and he was not only a Bhakti Vedantist but also very perfect in his Sanskrit composition. So Guroho, Vande Guroho Sri Charanaravindam. I offer my obeisances unto all those acharyas in the line who are in line of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu Kirtan Nritya Gita, always singing the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and dancing in ecstasy. And when that happens, when they're absorbed in full Krishna consciousness, our acharyas, their hairs stand on an end. The Astasattvic vikars, they show up. Romancha, Kampan, they shiver. Ashru Taranga, the streams of tears flow from their eyes. And there are so many other the symptoms, like there is stamba. One becomes like one as if they have been paralyzed. And then there is the color becomes pale. And there is a trembling. There's a faltering of the voice. So all these symptoms were present in Bharat Maharaj as he worshipped the Supreme Lord with different mantras from the Rig Veda, and also through the Gayatri mantras. So Bharat Maharaj was very elevated, but as we know in this chapter, we find that he fell down due to his attachment to a deer calf. When Bharat Maharaj had taken his usual bath in the banks of the Gandaki, so we find that this was a place in Nepal. Gandaki River is found in Nepal. That's the only place where we can find Shaligram Shila. the Shaligram Shilas. And that's, if you all remember, Gopal Bhatta Goswami had gone all the way to Nepal and taken a bath in the Gandaki river. And while he was taking a bath using his kamandal, his water pot, in them came about 12 or 13 Shaligram Shilas. And he put them gently back into the river. And again, when he was taking a bath and using the kamandal, the water pot, again they entered. So these Shaligram Shilas, then finally he thought it was the will of the Supreme Lord. So he took him with him to Vrindavan. And then, lo and behold, one day, when one very, very affluent merchant came to Vrindavan, and he started giving gifts to the acharyas, to the Goswamis, for their deities, wonderful vastras, silken garments, and ornaments. And he also gave, this merchant also gave Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami was kind of morose, thinking, what am I going to do with this? I don't even have any deities. And like that, he fell asleep. And the next morning when he woke up, one of the Shaligram Shilas turned into Radha Raman Dev. And Radha Raman Dev fulfilled the desire of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, just like other acharyas, other Goswamis, like Madan Mohanji had manifested to Sanatan Goswami, Govind Dev Ji had manifested to Rup Goswami, Gopinath Ji had manifested to Madhu Pandit. Like this, Damodar Ji, etc., all these had manifested to Jiva Goswami. So Radha Raman Dev, in the form of the original Shaligram Shila, manifested in his original form, and he fulfilled the desire of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, so that Gopal Bhatta Goswami could serve him. So this is from Gandaki river. So we find that is a very, very beautiful place. Many years ago, we had visited the Gandaki river, and it's still today very charming and very blissful place. That is why Maharaj Bharat, it is said that he performed his austerities. And while he was doing that, he saw a pregnant deer that came to drink the water. And suddenly he heard the thundering roar of a lion. And the deer was so frightened that it immediately, while tried to jump across the river, but it gave birth to a calf because it was pregnant. And then it died once it crossed the river. But Maharaj Bharat took compassion upon that motherless calf and rescued it from the water, took it to the ashram and cared for it affectionately. And what happened then? He gradually became attached to this young deer and always thought of it affectionately. And as it grew up, it became Maharaj's Bharat constant companion. And he always took care of it. Wherever he went, he took care of the deer. He became so absorbed in thinking of his deer that his mind became agitated. And he became less devotional, because more time was being spent in taking care of the deer and the consciousness of the deer. Thus, he fell down from his position as a transcendentalist. And once, when the deer was absent, it had gone astray in the forest, Maharaj Bharat was so disturbed that he began to search for it. And while searching, he started lamenting for not finding the deer due to the absence of the deer. And Maharaj Bharat fell down and died out of separation from the deer. And because his mind was fully absorbed thinking of the deer, he naturally took his birth from the womb of a deer in his next birth because of his consciousness. However, because he was considerably an advanced devotee in his past life, graced by the mercy of the Lord, he could not forget his past activities. He was able to remember, even though he was in the body of a deer. So this was special mercy of Krishna. He could understand how he had fallen down from his exalted position. And remembering this, he left his mother deer and again went to the ashram. He ended all different kinds of activities that were not related to pure bhakti in the form of a deer. And when he died, he was released from the deer's body. Later on, we find that he became, Bharat Maharaj became Jad Bharat. After he was released from that body of the deer, he was born to a pure Brahman and a Brahmani, and he was very silent. He didn't speak anything. He was very dumb. He acted like he was deaf, not interested in anything material. People in the town, in that village, used to think that he is crazy, and sometimes the cruel people used to even curse him and speak ill of him and speak badly of him. And after his parents passed away, the Brahmin and the Brahmani, he was very ill treated by his foster brothers and sisters, and he was sent to do very menial jobs all night, to go into the forest and not in the forest, sorry, into the family farm and keep a night watch. And while he was keeping night watch, at that time, some dacoits came and they took him, because the dacoits were searching for Bali, or a sacrifice for Mother Kali. Even today, we find that places like in India, in Madhya Pradesh, there is places known as Chambal, and the dacoits are very famous. They are deep in the mountains and the caves and the forests and other places in Uttar Pradesh, in Bihar, and their livelihood is simply based on looting people. They come on horses, they have rifles, they have guns, they come on jeeps, etc. And they are worshippers of Kali. They actually regularly perform sacrifices for Kali, and some of them go to the extent of pleasing Kali by offering human sacrifice. So they found this Jad Bharat in that farm at night, and they wanted to sacrifice him in front of Mother Kali. So when they went in front of Mother Kali and they were just about to sacrifice, Mother Kali appeared right there and there and killed all the dacoits, saving Jad Bharat, because Jad Bharat was a pure Vaishnava. He had already had a realization in his previous births, and now that he was in Jad Bharat body, he was fully realized, and realizing his mistake about the attachment to the deer, etc., and falling from the path of transcendentalism, falling to the path of pure Krishna Bhakti. So protecting Kali Devi protects Jad Bharat, and that is because she is Vaishnava Devi. Anybody who harms a Vaishnava, Krishna certainly protects them. Parthadas Prabhu, please mute your mic. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I would appreciate it. Parthadas Prabhu, please mute yours. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Where was I? Yes. So like this, Mother Durga, who is also known as Vaishnava Devi, she actually protected she protects the devotees of Krishna. So this is a summary of King Bharat. So when we now move into the actual verse itself, we find that that in the 11th verse it was mentioned that Bharat Maharaj was day by day attracted to the wherever he went, wherever he went, he took the deer with him. And in the 12th verse, Srila Prabhupada mentions that when Bharat Maharaj entered into the forest to gather kusha grass is used for making an asan, and also kusha grass is used for worship of Krishna. It is considered very pure. And all other samagris, such as flowers, leaves, fruits, and roots, he would also take the little baby calf, the deer calf, with him, because he would fear that the dogs and the jackals and the tigers and other carnivorous animals, ferocious animals, will kill the deer. So he would take the deer with him while entering the forest. So like this, he was so attached that one day, and as mentioned, that the deer went astray while Maharaj Bharat was collecting all these different paraphernalia for the worship, and then not finding, due to the attachment to the deer, he died. And this is a very huge lesson. Srila Prabhupada is saying that um, when a great devotee like Bharat Maharaj uh, can fall down like this, what can we say of those who are not advanced in spiritual life? We can become attached to cats and dogs, and that is so true. Srila Prabhupada always, as you all know, every morning he used to go for a morning walk. And wherever he went, especially in the West, he would walk in the Golden Gate Park when he was in San Francisco, etc. So many places when he saw the senior citizens, he would just stop and see this person. He's almost at the age of quitting his body, but he is simply attached to cat and dog. When he saw that they were with their pets, walking them, sometimes they would pet them, kiss them. We see all that. They are so attached. I know of one of my wife's schoolmates who lives in Chicago, and she has a dog that she's so attached to, that my wife says that she's got 2 kids, but she doesn't take as much care of the kids than as much care she takes of the dog. Wherever she goes, just like Bharat Maharaj, she takes him. And when she goes out to the grocery store, and she is so attached that she wouldn't even put him on the next seat. While driving, you'll be surprised. I was shocked when I heard that from my wife. She puts that little dog on her lap while she's driving. And in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., if the dog wants to go out, she will take him out for a walk and this and that, and spoil that dog. So one day I just joked with her, what will happen to your friend if this dog would be lost or disappear? Oh, don't even think about it. She said, my wife said, she will die. So this is the situation. If we are not attached to God, Prabhupada said the other opposite of that is dog, G-O-D. And when we go in the opposite direction, is D-O-G. So we find that many years ago, we had read somewhere that one very wealthy woman, she had, I think, cats, if I'm not mistaken, in New York, a multi-millionaire woman. And when before she died, she had willed in a trust that everything that I have will go to the caretaking of my pets. And they should be given the finest, the gourmet foods that are available in the market. And they should be dressed well, with little clothing, especially in winter. And they have to be groomed well. And they have to be taken to the veterinarian and be given vitamins and vitamin shots and this and that. This is the story of most people. And this is happening everywhere. In the world, we see there's so much attachment to dog rather than God. Rather than even forget God. God is on a spiritual level, even on a material level. People are not sattvic enough to even love their own children and their families as much as they love their pets. So this is the situation. Whatever it is said that in the Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? That in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the 8th chapter, Antakale cha mameva smaranam muktva kalevaram yaha prayati sa mad bhavam yati nasti atra samshayaha. Antakale, at the end of one's life, cha mam eva smaranam, one should remember me, always remember me. Muktva kalevaram, when we are quitting our body. Yaha prayati saha, if one, and then what will happen to that person? Mat bhavam, one will obtain my nature, one will obtain my destination. Yati na asti atra samshaya. There is no doubt, O Arjun. Also, Krishna says that in the next verse, also in the Bhagavad Gita, very important key verses. Attaining the chapter 8 is about attaining the transcendence, attaining the Supreme Lord. Yam yam vapi smaranam bhavam tajeti ante kalevaram tam tam evati kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. So whatever our consciousness is at the time of death, when we are quitting a body, ante kalevaram. Kalevar means body. Ante means at the time of death. O son of Kunti, O Arjun, that state he will attain without fail. So these two verses clearly tell us that whatever our consciousness is at the time of death, then we will attain a befitting body. If we are attached all our life to a family, money, material things, business, etc., then at the time of death, we will always think of them. So this is a very, very important science. It is Vijnanam. Vijnan in Sanskrit, the primary meaning is Vishesha Gyan iti Vijnan. Vishesh means special or topmost. Gyan means knowledge. And what is that topmost knowledge? Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Because we have got this human form of life, we should inquire into spirituality. We should take to this process of Krishna consciousness. Because the human form of life is extremely rare. Prahlad Maharaj says, instructing at the very young age, a pure devotee Prahlad Maharaj instructing his friends in school, he's saying this, that what is that verse in Shrimad Bhagavatam? Well, the purport of the meaning of that verse is that one should take to Krishna consciousness at a very young age, because this human form of life is very rare, and only in this human form we can, although it is temporary, tadapi arthadam adhruvam, it is temporary, adhruvam, one can attain the highest, arthadam, meaning attain Sri Krishna. One can attain Sri Kaumaram Achara Pragye Dharman Bhagavata Iha Durlabham Manushya Deha Tadapi Arthadam Adhruvam. Kaumaram Achara Pragye. Therefore, one should take to this Krishna consciousness from a very young age. From the Kaumar age means from the age of 4 or 5 years old. Our parents, if we are fortunate, our sanskaras, our grandparents, etc., will guide us into Krishna consciousness right from that age. Because some people say that, oh, you ISKCON people are great, amazing, you all are chanting and you are instructing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and so many. So now we have the formula. When we die, we will remember Krishna. And in the meantime, we'll do whatever we want. So thank you for this formula. But it does not work, because at the time of death, whatever our consciousness is throughout our life, what we are most attached to, that's what we will remember. It is not so easy to remember Krishna. Although one may have practiced all their lives, just like Bharat Maharaj, he practiced Krishna consciousness. But once the deer calf came into his life, it dwindled slowly, and then his consciousness became deer. So similarly, that is why we have to practice our Krishna consciousness. From Prahlad Maharaj is instructing from Kaumar, from the age of very, very young age. Kaumara acharat pragyaha, prakrishta rupyana gana, attaining the topmost knowledge or becoming Krishna consciousness, dharman bhagavata iha, taking to this process of Bhagavat, taking to this pure devotional service. Why? Durlabham manushade, no guarantee that we may get a human birth again. Even if Bharat Maharaj could not get a human birth right away, he got a birth of an animal, a deer. What to speak about us? Srila Prabhupada has said that. So we should be very, very careful. Bando mui saudhana mate. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bandho Mohi Saudhan Mate. We sing that every day in the Guru Puja. Don't we? Huh? That we have to be very, very careful. We should not take our spiritual life so casual, and we should not take the Acharya so casually. We have to be very serious. If we are not serious, then what is the result? As we see in front of our eyes, that the chances of falling down are very high. Just because we think that we are chanting 16 rounds and we are following the 4 regulative principles, we will go home back to Godhead. No, not necessary. Sri Prabhupada said the real test of human life, or the success of human life, is if we are able to remember Krishna at the time of death. So can we imagine? Let's examine our own lives. Let's be very honest. Okay, in the morning, this is a very nice program. The everyday Harinam Chant conference, for many years, they have been conducting on the phone this Shrimad Bhagavatam classes in the morning, and in the evening, the Bhagavad Gita classes. So this is the process that Prabhupada taught, the temple, the Krishna conscious life, right from Mangal Arati, waking up Krishna, waking up early and singing the Mangal Arati, and then doing our japa. After that, seriously, 16 good rounds. Prabhupada did not say 16 rounds, but it is 16 good rounds, sitting in one place and chanting those rounds early in the morning in the Brahma Muhurat. Those effects are very divine. And then after that, doing some reading of Shrimad Bhagavatam, if we are at home or if we are in the temple environment, hearing Shrimad Bhagavatam, attending Guru Puja, attending the Sringara Arati, attending the Shrimad Bhagavatam classes. So right from maybe 3 a.m. to about 9 a.m., 6 hours of good Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada trained. As a matter of fact, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON, used to mention his Guru Maharaj. Then my Guru Maharaj said that if the Krishna conscious program that I have given or recommended, if one follows that, one will certainly attain the lotus feet of Radha Krishna, and one will not even fall sick. So so those who are very early to rise and early to bed, even by the healthy standards, so Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada ji guaranteed that. So then we go on about doing our daily business, whether going to school, college, business, jobs, etc. And then in the evening, we again try to come to the temple, or in our home temple, we do the Sandhya Arati, and then we offer bhog to the Lord, etc. And then like that, all these activities throughout the day will always make us remember Krishna. But if by some chance in between, if we are working or on the bus, on the train, and if our consciousness is something else, a death can come to us at any time. It's not guaranteed that it will only come to us after 80 or 90 or 100 years. In English, there is a proverb, as sure as death. There's a proverb, as sure as death. So it can come to an infant, it can come to a young boy or a girl, it can come to a youthful person, it can come to a middle-aged person, death can come to a person who is old, and of course, eventually death will come to all, as sure as death. So the question is, are we going to be successful about our human life? Success of human life means when we remember Krishna at the time of death. We have to examine ourselves. Sometimes I am very fearful about myself. When suddenly death comes, am I remembering Krishna? That is always what is the point that is bothering me. Sometimes I discuss with devotees that at night when I'm sleeping, I'm getting dreams. Not every day I get some beautiful dreams about Krishna or something nice. Sometimes I get some other dreams that is based on my past lives. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in our purports that sometimes we find that there are some strange dreams because we have gone to those such places, because we have obtained those bodies, and therefore it is there in the subtle body, in the mind. Those things are there, and therefore we experience that in the dreams, in the dream state. So if we are having a dream, when we are having a dream, and if it is not about Krishna, and suddenly our breath stops, which can happen. So many people just don't wake up in the morning. Then what is our consciousness? So this is an amazing warning This is so amazing that it's an eye opener. It's scary, especially for those who are serious. But Krishna is very kind. For those who have taken to Krishna consciousness, one guarantee is given, that from whatever point they have left out, or whatever point they have attained, next life they will attain bhakti from that point. So let's say if somebody's completed 30%, then Krishna will at least give them a human body. Just like Bharat Maharaj, of course, because his consciousness was so deeply rooted as a deer, he got a deer body. But Krishna is so kind that immediately, because of the remembrance, as mentioned in these verses, that he could remember Krishna, even in the deer body. That is the beauty. Then when he quit the deer body, he was able to attain the body of a human being, when he came as Jad Bharat. So Krishna is kind. Ne abhikramana svasti pratyavayana vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayat. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, that if whoever takes to even this Krishna consciousness, even little, swa alpa means little, dharmasya, to this Krishna conscious dharma, then all kinds of fears are eradicated. At least we will be guaranteed a human form of birth. So one should not fear. Krishna is so kind. In many places in the Shastra, this guarantee is given because Krishna is Surat Sarva Bhutanam. He is the most, he is the best friend of all. Bhuktaram Sarva Yagya Tapasyam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Surat Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Richati. One attains true peace when one fully realizes that I am the true well-wisher of all. And indeed, I am the enjoyer only of the entire creations, of the entire worlds, of the yagyas, etc. So actually, when we try to become bhokta, when we try to enjoy sense gratification, then that's where the problem is. Not guaranteed that we will remember Krishna at the time of death. One of my very good friends, a very good devotee, who actually is a doctor, and he was practicing in Bombay. And then about 5 years or 4 years ago, I met him in Sri Vrindavan Dham during Kartik. So I was speaking on the Damodar Leela at that time, giving a seminar. And he happened to be there in that seminar in Kartik. And after the class, he met me, introduced me to himself and his wife, and he told me about his life briefly, that how he gave up everything, even his practice as a MBBS or as an MD, and he came and settled in Vrindavan Dham. So, well, then he's a very serious devotee. Actually, he's a member of our Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad group, and last year he was afflicted with COVID, him and his wife. So very bad COVID, and he tried to get treatment in Mathura, etc., but then he had to make a decision that the facilities were not that great. He left for Bombay. He called up his brother, and he was made. There was a friend who had a hospital, and at that time beds in the hospital were also very rare because of the acute COVID situation, if you all recollect, in 2020 and 2021. So finally, him and his wife both got a bed in the hospital, and it was so bad that he was so weak, and he was telling me his experience. Prabhuji, believe me, he said, believe me, Prabhuji, I could not even chant the name of Krishna because of the pain and the fever and all the different kinds of consciousness and all these things that were going on. I could not even remember Krishna. I was so fearful that, and he was on oxygen. Obviously, at that time, the vaccinations were not out yet. And he was thinking, what will happen if I die? Many a time he would talk to me. He's a good friend of mine, a good devotee friend. And he says, no, Prabhu, we think we are doing all these activities on Krishna consciousness, chanting, reading, etc. But when the time comes, I went through it. Now, a person who I know who is chanting, he wakes up every day at about 3:30 a.m. in Vrindavan, every day. And when I'm speaking Hari Katha, mostly 6 p.m. is the time, or 5:30 p.m. on every Sunday. He is there. He doesn't miss Hari Katha every morning, every evening, our time, 5:30, and in winter hours, it's 4 a.m. there. So he's there. He's already finished his chanting. He's such a serious devotee, which, he inspires me personally. I always tell him that when will the day come when I and my wife, we will, get that inspiration to settle down in Vrindavan Dham forever. Just like you are so blessed. But here's a warning he gave us, and his own experience, not something that he had seen. He experienced it very hard, Prabhuji, very hard. I'm telling you about myself. I could not think about Krishna at that time when I was in that pain. So like this, we have to be very careful. Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the book that he had translated, Mukundamala Stotra by the Alvar, the great Alvar, the South Indian king, King Kulashekar. This is a wonderful verse that Srila Prabhupada used to sing as well. Krishna Tvadiya Pad Pankaja Panjaranantam Adyaiva Me Vishate Manas Rajahamsa Prana Prayana Samaye Kafavata Pittai Kantha Avarodhana Vidau Smaranam Kruta. Amazing verse. Srila Prabhupada loved this verse. Meaning of this verse, oh Lord Krishna, at the time, at this moment, let this royal swan of my mind enter and entangle myself in the stems of your lotus feet. How will it be possible for me to remember you at the time of death? King Kulashekar was a pure devotee. And he says, how is it possible? When my throat will be choked up with mucus, bile and air, kapha, pitta, vayu. So when we are sick, when our body is not working, at that time, there are so many ailments, there's so much pain. And at that time, it is very difficult. So King Kulashekar says that right now I'm very healthy and my mind is entangled at your lotus feet, just like the swan. The swan dives deep, sometimes into the waters, and likes to play with the stems of the lotus. We have our dear friend and good Prabhuji, Nikunja Ras Prabhu, and Mataji, Shama Rasika Mataji, who served Sri Vrindavan, New Vrindavan Dham many years, and I've met them there. And thinking of those swans, there are always some swans in the Radhakund lake of New Vrindavan. And sometimes we wondered, as we took a walk in the morning, my wife and I, on a japa walk, or just simply walking around that Radhakund lake, they would just go down into with their necks into the water. And then we were wondering, what are they doing? So this is something what King Kulashekar is describing. So there were some lotuses in that kunda that we find sometimes, and that they like to go inside and they play around with the stems of the lotus. So just similar, analogous to that, King Kulashekar is saying that the stems of the lotus are like, because the lotus is the representation of Sri Krishna and the stem is the lotus feet, and the swan, a true swan, is always entangled. They entangle themselves at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So right now it is possible for me to do that. So when I'm healthy and I'm Krishna conscious, so that should be our prayers. Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam. At the end, how will I remember you? Right now when I'm healthy, please, my dear Krishna, it is better that I quit my body when I can remember you. So like this. Also we find great devotees like Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev, he had actually mentions in his Bhishma Stava in the first canto, chapter number 9, very amazing prayers, where he says, Iti matira upakalapita vitrushna Bhagavati satavata pungave vibhumni swasukham upagate kvachida virahatum prakritim upayeshu yad bhava pravaha. In the 32nd verse of Shrimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 9, in the Bhishma Stuti, when Bhishma Dev was lying down in Kurukshetra, waiting for the time, because he had the Swaichha Mrityu, he could die whenever he wanted, sleeping on the arrows, on the bed of arrows. And when the Pandavas come, after instructing the Pandavas, when Sri Krishna arrives, at that time, Bhishma Dev starts speaking his last few words. Bhishma Dev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which are so long engaged in different subjects. Bhishma Dev was an administrator, he was a warrior, and so many other occupational duties according to his dharma. He had many different dharmas that he played as a grandsire, as a protector of Hastinapur, as a fighter, etc. All the different Kshatriya duties, etc. that he had. So all these occupational duties that I have now, in the all-powerful presence of Lord Krishna, he is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, Krishna is so kind, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending into the material world, although from him only the material world is created. And then in the 39th verse, there is an amazing mention of the consciousness, where he's saying, in the same Bhishma Stuti, Vijaya Ratha Kutumba Atatotre Dhrutahaya Rashamini Tacha Shriya Shani Bhagavati Ratir Astu Me Mumurashora Yama Iha Niraksha Hatagata Swarupam. Bhishmadev says that at the time of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Lord Sri Krishna. And the personality of Godhead, I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver, Vijaya Ratha. He calls him Vijaya Ratha because Yatra Yatra Yogeshwar Tatra Tatra, wherever there is Yogeshwar, there is victory. So Vijaya Ratha, Arjuna is addressed as Vijaya Ratha, and Krishna was the chariot driver. So here, Vijaya Ratha Kutumba Atte Totre Dhrutta Hoi Rashmini Tata Shriya Ekshaniya. Let me remember you. You stood in front with the whip in your right hand and with the lagam or the bridle rope in your left hand, and was very careful to give protection to Arjun's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained the original forms after death. So there are so many. So Bhishmadev here is thinking about that pastime of Sri Krishna in Kurukshetra, how he protected Arjun, how he drove the chariot of Arjun. So like this, the Shrimad Bhagavatam is full of different pastimes of the Vaishnavas, of the kings, of the associates of Sri Krishna. And then once we go to the first to 9 cantos, where our tattva becomes so solid, then we are able to enter into the rasa of the 10th canto. And there, that is where our Brahma-Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is about. It's about Nandanandan Krishna, Vrajendranandan Krishna, Radha, Vrindavan Chandra Krishna, Krishna in Vraj. And that is our consciousness. Our consciousness is so, it's of the highest nature by the mercy of Mahaprabhu and the Rupanugas, by the mercy of Rupa Goswami, that at the end of our life, our attraction will be from the beginning stage that when we entered in Krishna Ado Shraddha, we had some faith and we came to Krishna consciousness. After that, what was the next step? Sadho Sangha. We met devotees, and devotees started giving us Bhagavad Gita, started asking us and encouraging us to come to the classes and come to the temple programs. And then what was the result? Bhajana Kriya. Through the mercy of devotees, we started doing Bhajana Kriya. Chant one round. We started with one round, increased our round, started reading Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada books. That is Bhajan Kriya. And then Bhajan Kriya also takes to the part where we take initiation from a bona fide guru in the Sampradaya, in the Brahma-Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And then what happens next? Then our Anartha Nivriti takes place. All those dirty things that are there in our heart, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that have been accumulated since time immemorial, will be cleansed. And then our real bhakti starts with with the next few stages of nishtha, where we are very firm. Come what may, we wake up early in the morning. Come what may, we chant our 16 good rounds, minimum 16 very nicely, and all other Krishna consciousness. That nishtha is there, whether the weather is good or bad, or all 365 days a year. Nishtha, we are very firm, and from nishtha arises ruchi, natural taste. Right now, we may not have pure taste in Krishna. We may have to beat the mind 100 times to wake up. Sometimes we don't want to wake up in the morning. Sometimes we don't want to chant. Sometimes we don't feel like doing our vratas. But when we come to the stage of ruchi, that stage is so natural that we don't even know that we are doing these things, and we are doing it with great taste. And after ruchi, there is asakti. Asakti means we are so attached to Krishna consciousness and to the seva of Krishna that we cannot live without that. After asakti comes the last two stages, which is bhav. And that bhav is in that stage we get to know who we are in Golok Vrindavan by the mercy of the Rupa Goswami and the Rupanugas, and by Srila Prabhupada. That bhav, Chakshudana Dilojai Janme Janme Prabhu Sai Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. We sing that every day. What does that mean? So then His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada and our Gaudiya Acharyas will open up another dimension. From sadhana bhakti, we will enter raganuga bhakti, bhakti in the form, in the mood of the Vrajvasis, bhakti in madhurya rasa. Out of the 5 different rasas of shant ras, sakhya ras, dasya ras, sakhya ras, vatsalya ras, out of all the 4 rasas, the 5th and the topmost rasa is madhurya rasa. At that time, our acharyas will open up the doors. And just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions in the first verse of the Chaitanya Sistastakam, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitarana Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Once we are purified and our heart receives the moonlight rays of Nityananda Prabhu through the Acharya, we are so purified that we will get Vidya Vadu Jivanam. We will get the transcendental knowledge. That is the standard meaning, but the Rasik meaning is we will be situated on a platform of bhav and Krishna prem, where we will get the knowledge and the activities of the Vrajavadus. Vadu means, in Hindi also we say bahu. Vadu in Sanskrit means to increase. Only a married woman can increase, by giving birth to children. That is why they are known as bahu. Bahu means plural in Hindi, or vadu. So here Vadhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is indicating Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. So the married gopis in Vraj, they gave up everything and they went to Sri Krishna. Vipina Mahu Murali Hatha Saji, Navala Kishora, Navala Manamohana, Navala Swara Vamshi Baji, Klim Shrim, Prema Ko Vardak, Sagara Chodi, Gopi, Vanachali. They left everything. And they gave up their family, their husband, their children, and everything. And they went to Sri Krishna. Krishna was testing them. Krishna says, go back. What will happen? This is the middle of the night. You're meeting a brahmachari boy like myself, a young youth. What will the society say? What will your mother-in-law say? What will, if they find out? I suggest you go back right now. But the gopis, that is the Vidya Vadu Jivanam. He says, you are the original husband. Tameva mata pita tameva bandhucha sakha tameva. That is a very famous shloka that most of the Sanatan Dharmis know. You are everything. Tameva sarvam mama deva. You are suddenly everything to us, O Krishna. Then Krishna gave them the highest reward of the rasa dance, the Ras Leela, to the gopis. So Vidya Vadu Jivanam. So that is in the bhav stage. We will, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we will get into the Raganuga Bhakti. Chakshudana Dilojai Janme Janme Prabhu. He will within our hearts give us instruction. And we will be also be able to see our Ekadash Bhav, who we are in Golok Vrindavan, the 11 different symptoms, what our form is, which group of gopis we belong to, what our services, where our residence is, what our dress is, etc. So there are 11 different symptoms that will be given to us in the bhav stage. And then finally Krishna Prem. And Krishna Prem has many, many delineations. It is just not generally when we say that I want Krishna Prem. Yes, my dear Prabhu, my dear Mataji, but what is Krishna Prem? We have to learn from our Rasikacharyas. Krishna Prem, do you want it in the Sakhyaras like Madhumangal and Stoka Krishna, or do you want it like Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj, like that is Snigdha Gray and Gritta Prema, or do you want it like the gopis, where there is Raga, Anuraga, and the other the Bhava stage, the Bhava in Madhurya Rasa, and of course the highest Bhav is Mahabhav of the gopis, and beyond that, it's the only one gopi, Sri Radhika, who has got a very specialty that nobody else can attain, is the Madanakya and Mohanakya Bhav in Krishna Prem. But at least we can witness that by Radhika Saroda Indu Nindi Mukha Mandali Vandiye Shri Pada Padma Vrishabhanu Nandini. Rupa Goswami praise Sanatan Goswami. Actually, these are prayers by Sanatan Goswami, that may I always obtain the lotus feet of Sri Radha. That is our final goal, is Radha Dasyam as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Because if we please Radha, Krishna is automatically pleased. Most of us, we do not know what our goal is, because we have no idea about rasa. We are mostly into tattva, which is very good. Foundation is very, very important in Krishna consciousness. But at some point, we should slowly take interest into the higher, the school of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he himself came to taste the sweetness, his own sweetness in the form, in the consciousness of Sri Radha, and to glorify Sri Radharani. And what Radharani feels, what kind of ecstasy she feels, that is the internal reason, besides the external reason of giving Harinam. So that is what Mahaprabhu came. That is what our Gaudiya Sampradaya is. That is what Srila Prabhupada is. Prithvi Adi Nagaradi Gram Sarvatro Ibe Murnam Prachar. Please just chant Hare Krishna, sitting, sleeping. Namna Magari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti Statra Arpita Niyamita Smarnena Kala. There is no rules and regulations. Please chant the holy names. So whether we are on the bus, on the train, at the job, while we are on the computer, in our minds, if we can chant simply the Mahamantra, then let death come any moment. We are ready to embrace death, and we will be transported into the highest. Asamshaya, Krishna says, without a doubt, you will come to me. So that is the summum bonum of this wonderful prasanga. Although sometimes, I personally would like to make the statement that Bharat Maharaj was a pure devotee, but sometimes Krishna uses pure devotees and even puts them to some situations so that it can be a lesson for us. Just like Arjun. Arjun is a pure devotee. He's a Sakha of Krishna. Then how can he be afflicted by weakness? As Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita first chapter. And he is instructing Arjun, just like an ordinary person who is being instructed out of ignorance. Asochanam asuchastam pragyavadansya basasi gatasuna gatasunasya nanu shochanti pandita. You're talking like a pandit, Arjun. But, one who is a learned person doesn't lament over anything or hanker over anything. So Krishna politely tells him that you are a fool. But is he a fool? No. Deliberately Krishna puts him in that situation for our benefit. So similarly, this Leela of Bharat Maharaj is for our benefit. It's for our benefit that we have to learn that ultimately Savai Pumsam Parodharmo Yato Bhakti Radoksaja Ahaitukiya Pratyata Jena Atmasu Prasidati. Shrimad Bhagavatam clearly says that we have many kinds of dharmas. Dharma towards our family, dharma towards our duties, towards our family, towards our extended family, towards our relatives, towards our community, where we are born or which part of the world we are born in. That's our community. Because I am a Gujarati, I'm dedicated to the Gujarati community. If I am a Bengali, dedicated to the Bengali community. This is very common. Because I'm Indian, I'm committed to India. So these are all those isms, patriotism, socialism. Prabhupada says these are all on a material platform. So we have to be. So the point is that there are many dharmas or duties, but Shrimad Bhagavatam Savai Pumsam, for mankind, the highest dharma, Paro dharma, is Yato Bhakti Radokshaja. Krishna's, one of the names of Sri Krishna is Adokshaja. He is not very easily perceived by material senses. He is Adokshaja. Aksha means eyes or senses, and Aja, Ja means to be born. So it is not easy to see Krishna or to perceive Krishna through material senses because he is Adokshaja. Yato bhakti radhoksaje. Ahaituki anaprityata. What kind of bhakti or what kind of parodharma one should do or perform? It has to be ahaituki, without any material motive. And apratiyata, without interruption. Jena atma suprasiddhati. Then the self or the soul will be satisfied. And Vishwanath Chakravarti says on a commentary on this, Jena atma suprasiddhati also means the atma is residing in everyone, that is Paramatma. Then Sri Krishna will be fully satisfied. Samsiddhi haritoshanam. Our goal of human life is to satisfy Sri Krishna. Anya Bilashita Shunya Jnana Karma Navratam Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Tad Bhakti Rutam. Narad Pancharatra, and later on Rup Goswami, he mentions that in the Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, that Anya Bilashita Shunya, we should have zero material desires, not even for Jnana and Karma. Jnana Karma Anavratam, bereft of Jnana and Karma. That is the negativity that we should eradicate. What is the positivity? Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. Whatever pleases Krishna, we should do. And what pleases Krishna? What pleases Prabhupada and our acharyas. That is what will please Krishna. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. That is Uttam Bhakti, Tad Bhakti Uttama. So, Srila Prabhupada has given us the highest. Mahaprabhu has given the highest. Ajanu Lambita Bhujo Kanakaya Udato Sankirtane Pitaro Kamalaya Vishwambaro Vijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priya Karo Karuna Avtaro. Gaur and Nitai, both of them, they came and they were the founders of the Sankirtan movement, and they are Yuga Dharma Palo. So in this Yuga Dharma of Kali, constantly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That way we are prepared at the time of death. Even if we have to go into coma, even if we are on the deathbed, then Krishna will take over. Even though in our inner consciousness, we will still be able to remember Krishna. So I end here now. Just one more little thing that I practically have experienced, I will mention that how this is possible. There was one devotee, Aniruddha Prabhu, in the Toronto area, very young devotee. I think he was in his early 30s. This is about 8, 9 years ago. Very enthusiastic. He used to come to the temple, and always he carried his own kartals. And he used to play the kartals so beautifully and ecstatically in kirtan. And Prabhuji succumbed to brain cancer. He actually brain tumor, and he was operated 2 times. And then, and he had even 2 very young daughters. One barely born at that time when he had his first surgery. She was in her infancy, and the other daughter was probably about 3 years or 4 years old. But then it was time for him to go after the 3rd surgery. And in the middle of the night, his wife called us, me and my wife, Prabhuji, please come. He's taking deep breaths. I think he's going to leave his body. So, and he was in a coma for the last, I think, 2 weeks after being admitted, completely in coma. So we used to visit him in the hospital for the, for the duration when he was there. And then when his wife called in the middle of the night, we immediately, sped there to the hospital. And then when we went there, he was taking very deep gasps, and you will not believe it. I decided to, at that time, whatever came to my heart, open Shrimad Bhagavatam, and I chanted the Bhishma Stava, which is the couple verses that I chanted right now, and the Gopi Geet. And at that time, Aniruddha Prabhu, although in a coma, tears came out of his eyes. Tears, this was an amazing phenomenon that I had personally witnessed, me and my wife and his wife. And there were a couple of the devotees present there. We witnessed that. So we find that although he was in consciousness, Krishna was so merciful that, somehow or the other we can see from the symptoms that he was remembering Krishna. And then he gave up his body very peacefully, as if he was sleeping. So these are the things. There's a very famous song which is based on one, I don't know who has composed it, but most of you all may have heard it, those who understand Hindi, but it is based on Bhishma Dev's passing away. Itna to karna Swami jab pran tan se nikle, Govind naam lekar fir pran tan se nikle, Sri Ganga ji ka tat ho ya Yamuna ji ka vat ho, etc. So, oh my dear Lord, the devotee is praying, please, at the time of death, please make me chant your holy names. Jab pran tan se nikle, Govind naam lekar fir pran tan se nikle. That when I'm leaving my body, I chant the holy names. They take the name of Govind. Ganga ji ka tat ho. May the banks of the Ganges be present, or I be present there. Ya Yamuna ji ka vat ho. Or may I be in Vrindavan on the banks of, and the groves where, and the banks of Yamuna ji. Like that. So, and then in the end, in that particular poem, he says that Krishna, this is very assuring, by the way, and encouraging in this composition. He says that at the time of death, kuch aap ki faraj hai, ye bhakt ki hi arji, mano to kya haraj hai, kuch aap ki faraj hai, jab pran tan se nikle. So he's addressing Krishna. So this is my fervent prayer, O Krishna. Ye bhakta ki araj hai. This is my fervent prayer to you, Krishna, that you give me Krishna consciousness at the time of that. Kuch aap ki faraj hai. And now it is your duty to give this Krishna consciousness to me, and then you do as you please. So this is the prayer that the devotee is praying. So this is amazing. So my dear devotees, we should warn ourselves. Just because we may be succumb to some kind of a subtle pride that, oh, we have taken Krishna, oh, we are devotees. No, we are not devotees. Never. We should never introduce ourselves as devotees. We are still trying to become devotees. We are devotees when we leave our body and we are able to remember Krishna. Then we can say we are devotees, or the others will call us devotees. But we should never call ourselves devotees. That is our practice. Sometimes we see that some people, when they write, oh, I am a devotee and I am this and that. And sometimes I think that, we all need to be so mature. This is not how we introduce, or especially we have no right to introduce ourselves as devotees. Because are we that pure that in the time we sleep 6 hours or 7 hours, we are constantly in Krishna consciousness? Yes or no? If we are, then yes, we are devotees. Besides the morning program that we do in our homes or a temple, the rest of the day we are in our office, school, work, on computers and other things, or trying to make money or etc. Are we at that time thinking of Krishna constantly? If we are not, then we are not devotees. Mama ante cha kalevaram. At that time of quitting the body, we should be able to remember Krishna. That is the samam bonam. And Bharat Maharaj probably agreed to be that instrument of Sri Krishna to give us a lesson. So thank you all very much. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Grantaraj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So now if anybody has any questions or comments or any corrections, please feel free to unmute yourself. The devotees first on the Harinam Chant conference and then on the Zoom call. Hare Krishna. Thank you.